person drives along Interstate Highway 80 miles an hour until he encounters heavy traffic. So I'm going to draw a little vector here. 80 miles per hour. And then we hit some traffic. And we're going 60 miles per hour. And then the time they drove 80 miles per hour is 1 hour more than the time they drove 60 miles per hour. We don't know how long they drove 60 miles an hour, and we don't know how long they drove 80 miles per hour. But we know that if we were able to somehow get 60 miles an hour, then we could use that to help us figure out 80 miles an hour. Just be plus 1, right? So let's call the time that they take that they spend driving 60 miles per hour. We'll call that x. I'll just make a note off the side. And then that makes this over here nice and easy. This time is x plus 1, right? Because it's 1 more hour than the hour we spent driving 60 miles per hour. They also tell us that the distance that he drove at 80 miles per hour is greater than the distance he drove at 60 miles per hour. 80 miles per hour is greater than, it doesn't tell us by how much it's greater than. So there's not really any math we can do here. We'll just want to maybe underline the sentence to check our work. Distance driving at 80 miles per hour is greater than the distance drove at 60 miles per hour. Oh, here it is. It's a difference in the distance he drove at 80 miles per hour and the distance drove is 110 miles. Determine the time you spent driving at each. So what we need to do next is use this equation that we've seen in other word problems in this section. The distance that we travel is equal to the rate that we travel at times the time that we travel at. Right? So we'll make two different distance equations, and then we can use this number 110 to help us. The distance for this first one is 80 miles per hour for the rate, and then the time is x plus 1. It's whatever the 60 miles per hour is plus another hour. The distance we drove going 60 miles per hour is the rate times the time. And you don't really need the parentheses there. That's just to emphasize that they're multiplying. So we're told that the difference means subtraction, right? So if you were to take the 80 miles per hour distance, which is this, right? That's the distance we drove 80 miles per hour. And you find the difference, which means if you subtract that by the time spent driving 60 miles per hour, that's supposed to equal 110 miles. Okay, so that's putting it all together. That's the equation that we need to solve. Okay, and if you solve for x, then we should have our final answer. The hardest part, I know, is coming up with that equation. And I know it looks easy when a math teacher does it, but it's just because this is what we do for our job again and again. We see word problems that are all set up. In a real-world situation, the trouble is that we're not given the exact right amount of details of a problem. We have to sort through them and then put them into some sort of equation that we can solve. So that's definitely the hardest part, but that's the most important part we do with these word problems. Sift through the detail, try to create an equation that reflects reality. So I guess I can finish this out. You'll have different numbers probably. There's different randomizations for each question, but 80 times x using the distributive property, right? 80x subtracted by its like term, 60x, makes 20x. I'm trying to get x by itself, so I'm going to subtract 80 from both sides to make it disappear here. Subtract 80 here, subtract 80 here, and that makes 30. And if you divide 20 from both sides, I get x is 1.5. So it looks like it's 1.5 hours spent driving 60 miles per hour, so 2.5 hours driving 80 miles per hour.